There's a lot of things in this movie which really cross the line of legality.
Actors are definitely a different breed. There are some truly odd, insane, and downright dangerous things this list of performers did to give an authentic performance. Number 1. Things got a little scary on set. Evan Peters prepared so well for his eerily accurate role as Jeffrey Dahmer. So well, in fact, that the cast and crew couldn't distinguish him from his character most of the time. Aside from the extensive research he did on Dahmer, Evan Peters put weights on his arms to recreate his walking style. He wore his costume shoes, jeans, and glasses for months to really get into character. All of this really took a toll on his emotional well-being. Doing the role, I wanted to give it 120% the whole way through. So I brought in a lot of darkness and negativity. It was just having that end goal in sight, knowing when we were going to wrap and finally be able to breathe and let it go. Number 2. We're definitely not trying to hold our breath for 6 minutes. Tom Cruise did an incredibly dangerous underwater stunt for Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation. Usually in underwater sequences, you'd hold your breath for 10 to 15 seconds at a time, but Tom Cruise was the first one to push those limits.
Tom's very comfortable underwater. He likes to challenge the crew by staying under longer than he should.
Even though he trained with military professionals, the entire cast and crew were pretty concerned every time he would go underwater. But he ended up filming the entire underwater sequence swimmingly with no cuts. Number 3. Stepping into the shoes of Marilyn Monroe is no easy feat. Right now, we're talking about Michelle Williams' depiction of the iconic movie star in the film My Week with Marilyn. She had to undergo a plethora of uncomfortable tasks, like staying in the hair and makeup chair for hours, bleaching her roots every few days, and ultimately, the most insane thing in our opinion, was tying her knees together with a belt. She did that to perfect Marilyn's signature walk. She also found the role to be incredibly draining and would wake up in cold sweats and often cry on her way home from work. The other day, someone asked me how I got her sadness. I don't think I ever cried so much for somebody I didn't know. Number 4. There was a lot of intensity on the Amazing Spider-Man 2 set. With Andrew Garfield as Peter Parker and Emma Stone as Gwen Stacy, things got pretty emotional before shooting the big scene where Gwen meets her ultimate demise. Before shooting it, Andrew Garfield ignored Emma Stone for an entire week, deliberately choosing not to see her. The VFX supervisor, Jerome Chen, recounts the eerie feeling on set that week. It was very quiet. The sets were almost always very quiet. Mark likes to work very focused. So it was very quiet, a totally closed set. And I just remember Andrew coming in and just crying uncontrollably. It was hours of that. That was grueling, but powerful. Number 5. You have to be more than human to fill the shoes of Black Adam. Dwayne Johnson truly went above and beyond for his Black Adam training, much further than he's ever pushed himself throughout his career. The training was so intense, it's questionable whether he can actually keep putting his body through it if it ends up becoming a franchise. He talked on Instagram about his insane training regimen, saying he's been conditioning harder than he ever has in his life. Manipulating water, sodium, cardio, but also having to push and pull real iron to have dense, dry, detailed muscle. It's a real science that takes months and months to dial in with all my strength and conditioning coach. Number 6. Let's talk about Margot Robbie's performance in I, Tonya. Obviously, to be able to play the infamous figure skater, you have to be extremely comfortable on the ice. And that's exactly what Margot Robbie intended. She did an insane amount of training for the movie. For 5 straight months, she trained 5 days a week for 4 hours a day. She didn't even take time off for Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, or even the day before her wedding. Number 7. Really though, is there anything Zendaya can't do? When shooting the movie The Greatest Showman, the director wanted to use stunt doubles as little as possible. That wish was definitely granted. Zendaya started learning to trapeze 3 months before shooting started in order to perform the stunts herself. There were a lot of mishaps and pain involved when bringing these scenes to life. In one part, we swing away from each other, come together, and start spinning. There's a good take of just slapping together, and it's painful. Number 8. It's one thing to skip breakfast, but 2 days without eating? Daniel Radcliffe really got into character when filming his movie Jungle, about the real-life survival of Yossi Ginsberg, who had to survive all alone in the Amazon jungle after an accident. To really feel the same energy of his character, Daniel Radcliffe didn't eat any food for 2 days straight. I'm not a method actor at all, but I feel like I would be making my job harder and not doing justice to this guy's story if I was going home each night to a steak dinner and living really comfortably. Number 9. Can you imagine living with your coworkers for a month? When filming the movie Blue Valentine, Michelle Williams and Ryan Gosling played a married couple with a daughter. The directors wanted the actors to live together for at least a month so they would be more emotionally in tune with what they were filming. They only did it during the day because Michelle Williams would go home every night to see her actual daughter.
We had to cook and then clean up and take out the trash, build as close to a family as was possible.
Number 10. We're not surprised that going method as a robber isn't great for your mental health. When filming the movie Good Time, Robert Pattinson really went full method and tried to emulate his character's life. He lived in a basement apartment and kept the curtains shut for 2 months. He also made jokes about getting mercury poisoning.
That's you in what appears to be a dog cage.
Yeah.
Why are you are things that rough? I mean, are those what?
Number 11. Not the road trip kind, the acid kind. To prepare for his role as Charlie Countryman, Shia LaBeouf decided to go only a little bit method.
I'm super nervous right now because this is a wild experience for me.
In the film, Charlie trips on acid. Shia LaBeouf had never done it at the time, so he decided to. Not only did he actually take the trip, but he filmed it and sent it to his co-stars, like Evan Rachel Wood, for notes and feedback. Number 12. It seems to be a theme that playing Marilyn Monroe is extremely difficult. Ana de Armas really stepped out of her comfort zone to depict Marilyn in the fictional biopic Blonde. One thing de Armas really struggled with was her dialect. She worked with a dialect coach for 3 to 4 hours a day and felt extremely secure on set. I put aside what wasn't helpful for the part, and I kept the rest. Feeling nervous, feeling insecure, feeling like I was not being, at times, as good as I wanted to be, feeling judged. All of those things I felt myself, and they worked for the role. Digging into those emotions also put a strain on her well-being, and she would find herself crying alone in her apartment, just sitting in a feeling of dread that she couldn't do anything to help the late Marilyn. Number 13. More method acting techniques for Daniel Radcliffe. In the movie Horns, he plays a character who is suspected of committing a brutal crime against his girlfriend. He also has horns on his head.
It has all this darkness and this intensity and this emotional core, but it is also very funny.
To get into character, Daniel Radcliffe created a specific playlist and listened to it non-stop. One of his favorites was Sweating Bullets by Megadeth. It's an insane song, and it sounds like a psychopath talking to himself, and that was very helpful. Another band he had on the playlist was A Place to Bury Strangers. It's a hard one to recommend to people. It borders on unlistenable sometimes.
It's very representative of what I felt Ig's world sounded like in his head at the beginning of the movie.
Before I did the scenes, I'd just be trying to deafen myself with A Place to Bury Strangers. It's insane how much these actors do to prepare for their roles. Living with their co-stars, sleeping in dark basements for 2 months, and dropping acid just to give the audience a more authentic experience. That's definitely a lot to commend. Who's your favorite actor on this list? Don't forget to like and subscribe to The Things.